Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Welcome back and Merry Christmas with the second week of December, and we're rolling on for the 2021 Christmas special, and it wouldn't be a Quick Shot Reviews Christmas special without some horror movies. And this time we have Black Christmas, not the original, because I'm going to save that for next year because it is a yearly watch. I decided to watch the 2006 version, often called a remake, but I don't think it is. They use a lot of the stuff, but it's not quite a remake. 2006 version of Black Christmas. It is a guilty pleasure of mine, and I'm going to give you my review. So the 2006 version of Black Christmas, one of the greatest films, not the 2006 version, one of the greatest horror films that I've ever seen. It's not necessarily slash and stalk or anything like that, but it does give you a genuine sense of dread. And what gave me a genuine sense of dread when I was watching this is that it was done in 2006. That is a full 32 years after the original. Wow. Maybe 31 years, 1975, wasn't it? But yeah, brings in its whole new characters. They're all very cookie cutter, and it's very appropriate for this because what made the original one so great is that you never really saw Billy. He was very mysterious, he was very creepy, and he just made the phone calls, and they were nasty phone calls. I mean, they were disgusting, and still quite disgusting now when you watch it. And he just tormented the girls in the frat house, and then you've got the main character, got Margot Kidder. Yeah, everything about that film was brilliant. I've heard some people say it's boring, but pish posh. It's a great film. This film, the reason I say it's a guilty pleasure is because I absolutely love the cast. Every single one of these I've had a crush on at some point during my adolescence and beyond. I'm not afraid to say. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. It's not a bad movie at all. It's just not the original, which is good. I mean, I didn't want a remake because I think if you fell into that trap with this one, if the director fell into the trap, the director Glenn Morgan, then it wouldn't have hit the same notes for 2006 horror audiences as the 1974-75 version did back then. It needs to be updated, it needs to be a bit more graphic, it needs to be millennial, and that's exactly what it was. So on Christmas Eve, Billy he returns to his childhood home, which is now a frat house. He's been locked up in a mental institution, although they never actually catch him in the first one. I guess it's more of a sequel rather than a remake. And the difference here is that everybody knows who Billy is. They even put out Christmas presents for him and things like that. Again, what made the original so mysterious is because no one knew who Billy was. Nobody. And it was only after certain scenes that you sort of painted the picture, and there were still certain frat house girls, sorority house girls, that never even got found in that film. But in this one, there's still those that never get found, but it's very, very different. So it stars Katie Cassidy. I love that. I love that woman. She is gorgeous through and through. My first introduction to her was Supernatural as Ruby, and I was smitten. and that was a long time ago. That was 2005. So that is 16 years ago as we speak. Again, she was in Nightmare on Elm Street. When a Stranger Calls, got Kristen Cloak from Final Destination. You've got Mary Elizabeth Winstead, again, gorgeous. You've got, from The Thing and Final Destination, and then you've got Lacey Chabert, and I can't think of the other name. It's a triple barrel name and I can't think of it. Anyway, like I say, it's more of a reimagining. It's good use of a song called Sugar Plum Fairy as well. It's definitely more graphic. It lets you see who Billy is, brings more backstory in, which is fine. But it starts off much like the 2019 version. It starts off really good and really hot, and then it sort of descends into what you would call a normal slash and stalk teen horror film from there. And that's the point where I kind of switch off and realise how daft this film is, really. But that is what horror is. In 2006, it sort of lost its edge. It was just trying to claw back everything they needed, and just thought, let's chuck some blood at it, that's fine. Some really dodgy CGI as well. The bit where they lift the floor tile up in the bathroom, you got the eye, it just does not look real. There's no need for that to happen. I'm sure they could have done some practical movie magic on that, but there you go. But one of the girls in the house turns out to be his sister Agnes, and that's basically how we got the backstory. Because it's, there's scenes of incest and things like that, whereas the original they were playing around with the idea of abortion, and that was the big thing. Not sure where they got the idea of the incest thing from, but there you go. So Agnes is his sister and his daughter as well, which makes it at least a little bit interesting and a little bit different. But Black Christmas 2006 is just okay. Like I say, it is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's got plenty of gore in it, and like I say, the cast, I fancy every single one of them. But ultimately it's a very weak remake. It reminds me a lot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, because there's loads of time in between the original and the remake or sequel or whatever, reimagining, reintroduction to the reintroduction to the modern audiences, and that massive gap does tell. And if you've ever watched the original and compare it to this, then there's no competition. But like I say, I've got a really good soft spot for this one, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. However, I cannot and will not recommend this film. If you just happen to see it, if it's on TV or you got it on streaming, then please do give it a watch. It's just a generic slasher. It's not going to offend anybody, but it's just not as good as the original, and it abandons everything that made the original really quite terrifying to pander to modern teens. And like I say, to be fair to the makers of this, to be fair to Glenn, if it had gone down the original route, they wouldn't have been able to make it for the modern audience. It just wouldn't have worked. So there you go. I'm happy they went a different route. Not happy that they call it a remake, a reimagining, whatever. Gave it the name Black Christmas, give it a different name, it would have been absolutely fine. There was plenty of remakes and reimaginings and things around 2006, and this was just another one of them. I would have to say one of the better ones, to be honest, but there you go. It just does turn out to be a generic teen slasher with decent amounts of gore. So My final verdict on this one is that it is just okay. I can't recommend it, but if you happen to see it, do watch it. It's perfectly inoffensive. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. Merry Christmas. If you're watching this for the first time, make sure you click that subscribe button and join the channel. Quick short reviews. Got 2 more weeks to go for the Christmas special for 2021. Let's move on. Goodbye.